Hello, everyone. I can just see we've got some people trickling in still, so I'll just wait a few moments so that everyone has an opportunity to join. Alrighty, we'll get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Fiona McDonald. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the Events and Communications Lead with the Invasive Species Council of British Columbia. I'm joining you today from the unceded traditional homelands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people, also known as Vancouver. Thank you for joining today's webinar titled The National Lake Blitz, Capturing a Snapshot of Lake Health Across Canada. We are very grateful that this webinar is supported by Fisheries and Oceans Canada. We also have other exciting water webinars coming up. The next one will be on March 29th next week, when we will be joined by Leonard Joe, whose presentation is titled Aquatic Invasive Species and Indigenous Perspective. You can register and check out that event and others on our website. So a few little tech checks here. If you are experiencing any technical problems during today's webinar, go ahead and pop it into the chat. You'll notice that it's default to panelists. Please make sure it's to everyone so we can be sure we see it. This webinar is being recorded and will be available in a few weeks. If you have any questions for our presenter, Camille, during today's presentation, please type it in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And if you see a question that you wanted to ask but has already been asked, you can actually upvote it to get it up to the top there so we know that it's an important one. And we're so excited for all of you to join us. It would be really great if you could take a moment in the chat box to put your name, where you're joining us from, who you work with, if you do work, fun fact, whatever you like, just to get the chat box going. So our presenter today is Camille LeBlanc. She's the Living Lakes Canada National Lake Blitz Program Coordinator. I'm not super sure if that would fit on a business card, Camille. It's a very long title. Camille grew up along the Sturgeon River in Alberta. Her draw to living in wild spaces next to lakes and mountains brought her to the Kootenays in 2013. Camille is grounded in both the social and environmental sciences, which reflect her passion for community capacity building and environmental advocacy. She is a graduate from Selkirk College with an associate's degree in peace and justice studies and a diploma in integrated environmental planning. In addition to her National Lake Blitz program coordinator role for Living Lakes Canada, Camille is the executive director of Friends of Kootenay Lake Stewardship Society based in Nelson, BC. Welcome, Camille. We're so excited to have you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that great introduction. And yes, my business card would definitely be jam-packed. That's great. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. Great seeing everybody, wishing everyone a happy World Water Day. How fitting. Wonderful. So again, my name's Camille LeBlanc. I'm coming to you from Trail, BC on the unceded territory of the Sinixt, Ktunaxa, Secwepemc peoples. I'm very grateful to be able to talk to you about Living Lakes Canada's latest environmental water stewardship program that's all about getting citizens out and monitoring their favorite or their nearest lake. There's my long title. Like I said, it's my pleasure to present on behalf of Living Lakes Canada and this new exciting program. Here's a quick overview of my presentation. By the end, you'll have a better understanding of what Living Lakes Canada does, what the National Lake Blitz is, and how you can take part this year. There'll also be time at the end for all of your questions. So for those who aren't familiar, I'll just take a minute to talk about Living Lakes Canada, or LLC, as you'll hear me refer to throughout the presentation. We're a charitable organization based in British Columbia's Columbia Basin. and we focus on bridging the gap between science and action to foster community-based water stewardship. We work to facilitate collaboration in monitoring, restoration, and policy development initiatives for the long-term protection of Canada's water bodies that are impacted by climate risk. We've been leading water stewardship initiatives for almost 2 decades and have worked on specific projects across Canada and throughout BC. You'll see some of our initiatives listed in the slide, and there are a bunch that are national, provincial, and also regional. We're also affiliated with the Living Lakes Canada International and 120 NGOs sharing best practices for water stewardship. I feel like this could be its own 2-hour presentation, so if you want to learn more about Living Lakes Canada's other projects and programs, please visit our website at livinglakescanada.ca. So our newest national citizen science project, the National Lake Blitz, is seeking to work with organizations and volunteers from across Canada to provide an entry-level citizen science water monitoring program that can help address the knowledge and data gap on freshwater health in the age of climate change. The Lake Blitz is open to everyone, and you don't need a science or technical background or really any formal training to monitor a lake using these techniques. Instead, all you need as a Lake Blitz volunteer is a thermometer, a camera, and a lake you care about and are willing to visit regularly over the sampling season. We believe that by giving the wider population the tools, training, and support, that these volunteers will feel more empowered to take part in the climate crisis discussion and better be able to advocate for freshwater protections in a changing climate. We want to bring water monitoring into the mainstream while also gathering data on the big issues of concern to freshwater ecosystem health. These are, just in a nutshell, rising air and water temperatures that impact all freshwater life, invasive species pushing out native species in aquatic and riparian areas, and the growth of harmful algal blooms. So thinking that blue-green algae that can make people and animals sick. So in order to encourage participation, the Lake Blitz has 3 levels. These 3 components all work together to draw volunteers into water monitoring and address the needs of water stewardship and water data collection across Canada. They were created as a result of one-on-one meetings with stewardship groups that help determine what is most needed out of a national water stewardship program. The first is the Lake Biodiversity Photo Challenge, which is an opportunity for anyone with a camera to take part by submitting lake photos to win prizes. The second is the National Lake Blitz monitoring program that is designed for those who want to take a more active role in stewarding their local lakes through monitoring. And lastly, the third is capacity building and networking opportunities for stewardship groups. This is for newly formed or existing groups with specific monitoring goals who are looking for support to develop programs or become better connected with other organizations and advisors from across Canada. So really strengthening those networks and helping with capacity. Our Lake Biodiversity Photo Challenge kicks off the Lake Blitz in May and runs until July 31st at the end of Lakes Appreciation Month, which for those of you who may not have known, July is Lakes Appreciation Month. The challenge here is to get folks from across Canada to explore their local lake or new lakes that they visit and snap a photo that either captures the biodiversity or the surrounding impacts at that lake. Here are some great examples of our photo submissions from last year. The top right photo shows a beaver on a log surrounded by wildfire smoke. So this really ticked both of those boxes. Photos can be submitted using the online submission form on the LLC website or using the hashtag LakeBlitzPhoto on social media. There are awesome prizes to win for winners in 4 categories. These are 1, most biodiversity, capturing plants and animals. 2, most impacted, capturing pollution or deforestation or wildfire smoke. Public favorite, this will be determined by the number of likes on social media. and 4 is a kids category for those photographers who are under 12. Winners are announced in August. You can see right here on the bottom right, this is the public favorite that won last year, and you can really see why with that classic moose silhouette in Ontario. Like I said, there are some awesome prizes to be won. They're provided by ethical or environmentally conscious companies such as David's Tea, Lush Cosmetics, and Kicking Horse Coffee. Last year, we received close to 200 photo entries. And this year, we are working to have this challenge reach even more individuals from all provinces and territories. The wider goal of the photo challenge is to increase national awareness of the Lake Blitz and to promote the message that we need to protect these absolutely stunning natural spaces and our collective water legacy. It also serves to identify future Lake Blitz volunteers for the National Lake Blitz monitoring program. So the National Lake Blitz monitoring program. This program provides the training, equipment, and support volunteers need in creating a snapshot of lake health by gathering temperature and photo data on their local lake or their lake of choice from May through to September. Taking regular water photos and temperature readings is a really simple but effective way to understand freshwater ecosystem health, especially those concerns that I mentioned at the beginning. This is because temperature influences the ability of freshwater species to live in a lake because of temperature's relationship to oxygen levels. So many of us know there is a relationship there. Some of us might not know, but as temperature goes up, the dissolved oxygen within a lake goes down. Photos also allow us to compare changes over time and track impacts. Sometimes we can fall into this landscape amnesia of these natural spaces as impacts or changes start to really alter the wider ecosystem there. And photos can help us put a timestamp on the conditions. Photos of things like watercolor can also allow us to track lake eutrophication or algal blooms, which also lower the oxygen levels in lakes and are increasing with rising temperatures. Observations on wildlife and invasive species presence is also really important for helping us better understand the impacts of climate change is having on the biodiversity of our freshwater environments. And this is all captured in this monitoring program through using photos and taking temperature data. Getting started is really easy. Registration opens in early April, and interested volunteers can go to the lakeblitz.livinglakescanada.ca website to sign up via our quick registration form. Volunteers will enter their information, what lake they would like to monitor, and they'll also include their mailing address so we can send you your very simple and easy to carry around Lake Blitz kit. The kits include a comprehensive field guide, and I'll show you if people can see in the screen there, comprehensive field guide, a thermometer, and also data cards to enter your data. You'll also receive a volunteer guide over email that includes all the information you need to monitor your favorite lake. Training webinars take place during the first week of May, and these 1-hour sessions will cover everything you need to know from data collection to data entry, including best practices in gathering temperature measurements and lake photos. They will be recorded so you can go back and watch them at any point. Data can be entered directly into the lake observation form via your mobile device or back at home through the link on the Lake Blitz landing page. Instructions on how to enter data will be in the field guide and on our website. So there's a bunch of places to get information, and I'm always available to answer questions too. Let's take a quick look at the lake observation form on Survey 123 and discuss the 5-step sampling process as we move along. I'm just going to exit here really quick, and we'll pop into the survey form. Great. I'll make that a bit bigger. Perfect. So The 5-step sampling process is really straightforward, and it's designed to ensure that you can quickly, easily, and accurately collect water data. Whether you're using your data card or entering it on your home computer, and entering on your home computer or using the mobile data collection app, the app will start and the data collection form will start by identifying your location. So you can see here, I've chosen my location to be right here along the Columbia River if we were doing river monitoring. So you want to select a site where you can measure water and take a watercolor photo at a depth of at least 1 meter. So I chose this site because there's a dock. Docks are ideal, but if you have a flotation device such as a kayak or a stand-up paddleboard on a lake, it's a really fun way to go out and gather data. Perfect. So once you have your site located, you'll enter all your information, your lake name, where you're monitoring, the time that you start, which is very important for gathering temperature data. Adding the weather information that also influences our temperature data. Perfect. So once you're ready to start collecting your data points, you're going to measure your air and water temperature using the thermometer provided. Tips on how to do this properly are in the field guide. So when I'm at my site, I would find a tree in the shade to hang my thermometer to do air temperature and find some deep water to take my water temperature. Once you've gathered those data points, you're going to start to collect your lake photos. So you can enter at least 4 photos capturing the watercolor, each side of the shoreline and across the lake. You'll take one of those photos at the beginning of the sampling season, and then take additional photos if you notice any changes. Moving down to wildlife. Have you noticed any wildlife at your site? Can you identify them? There's even a space for adding their species name or common names if you wanted to practice your Latin. And the invasive species. So do you notice any invasive species? Within the field guide, there is a little guide profiling the species of concern or some of the common riparian or aquatic invasives you might see in your monitoring. All of these observations are backed up by photos, and we will help you properly identify the wildlife or the invasives that you're collecting. Lastly, if you notice any issues or concerns impacting the lake, so these are any instances of pollution, algal blooms, or a wildlife concern, you can enter that here with a photo that is used to back it up. And our Lake Blitz team is also available to help you address any of these issues. Perfect. So that's our 5-step easy to use form. I'll go back to presenting my slides. Perfect. And like I said, there is a mobile data collection app that you can use for quick data entry. And you can also, if you don't like using apps, you can also enter that all onto the data card and get it online when you're back at home at your desk. Results, as they start to come in, will be shown on a web map. So you can start to see your data and all of the other points coming in from across Canada on our Lake Blitz landing page. There's also monthly meetups that will take place. That's another bonus to get volunteers to become a part of a growing national network of water stewards who meet regularly online to share results, ask questions, and sit in on presentations from water experts from across Canada. And our third tier, along with developing the structure for our national monitoring program, one thing we discovered through our research is that there are many lake groups across the country trying to answer similar questions and coming up against similar barriers. Therefore, we'll work to support water groups by building a network and strengthening connections between these groups by developing a water-centric newsletter. This newsletter will contain information on equipment, available funding, and any other timely information. We'll also help our partners to develop scalable outreach and monitoring programs starting in BC that support their research and provide opportunities for their volunteers. These programs can eventually be scaled up and used across Canada. We'll also provide advisory support using our wide range of advisors and experts to help provide resources for furthering their monitoring questions in their watersheds. So in order to give you an idea of this program's wider implications, I'd like to zoom out and explain the 5 key impacts that guide this program's methods. So number 1, enable every citizen to participate in climate change action. By equipping everyone who wants to be a citizen scientist, we increase the national awareness of climate change impacts to fresh water and bring water monitoring into the mainstream. After all you need to take part is a Lake Blitz kit and willingness to gather data on a lake you love. Number 2, increase data on freshwater ecosystems. So we have a freshwater data deficiency in Canada. According to the World Wildlife Fund Canada's 2020 watershed report, the health of 60% of Canada's sub-watersheds are largely unknown. This program starts to address this deficiency by getting citizens to collect this data and making it available to all decision makers and all communities. Number 3, opportunities identified for restoration and conservation. So issues observed through this new monitoring program of lakes across the country will provide opportunities to improve ecosystem health. Monitors newly invested in their lakes will be supported in delivering real restoration and conservation. A good example are these volunteers in this photo who did a cleanup at their local lake, preventing plastic pollution from further entering the ecosystem. And number 4, a safe and equitable community activity provided. The program is a low barrier, COVID-safe outdoor activity that can address many community challenges we are currently facing, such as social isolation and systemic barriers to participation in environmental education. Volunteers of all ages and identities, together with organizations not traditionally engaged in conservation, will be connected to this free program through a coordinated national outreach strategy. And number 5, the creation of a national network of stewardship organizations. The Lake Blitz program is trying to build a legacy. By engaging and supporting volunteers, the program builds water stewardship across Canada. The program will connect new citizen scientists with more established stewardship groups, helping both build capacity with increased access to resources and advisory support. So, bringing the Lake Blitz to BC lakes, so you can help us make these impacts and reach our goals by following these easy steps after this presentation. So you can contact me, the Lake Blitz coordinator, to get added to our mailing list. Here you'll get connected to all the project updates, including when registration opens for the National Lake Blitz. While you're waiting for that, you can choose a lake you'd like to monitor. If you have a lake in mind before registration opens, let me know and we can make sure it isn't already being monitored. Big lakes can have more than one monitoring site though, so we'll work together to find the site that works for you. Register. Once registration opens, you can start to receive your kit. So in early April, I will send you a link to register if you're on our email list. You'll be asked in this registration form through contact information, where you'll be monitoring, and address for us to send your kit to. I'd just like to thank our partners and sponsors. Perfect. And I would love to open it up to questions. Thank you so much for listening in and spending your lunch hour with me. This is a really ambitious project with a lot of great people behind the wheel. So we really hope that some of you listening today would like to take part. And I would love to send you one of our Lake Blitz kits and tell you more about the program. Thank you so much. I'd like to pass it over to questions.
That was great. Thank you so much, Camille. And I got to give you a shout out for that. We want water monitoring to become mainstream. I got a good chuckle out of that. So thank you for the pun. And yeah, I like that you said that there can be more than one person on the lake, but I think we have plenty of work to do because I think Canada has the most lakes in the world, right? By a very, very large amount. So we all need to get busy to be monitoring them. And so a reminder, if you do have questions for Camille, the Q&A box is at the bottom of your screen. It is different than the chat box. But we do have some questions. And one of the questions is actually from me, but I know other people were wondering it too. I'm originally from Ontario, and I really wish that I could participate in this program at our local lake. And so for people that maybe have a lake but will be going on vacations and holidays this year, how do you keep up with monitoring one lake?
Yeah, that's a great question. What's worked in the past, and maybe I didn't mention this, we did have a pilot year last year and had 25 lakes monitored. So what worked for people in the pilot year and in the past is to have sort of like a monitoring team where you partner with like your friends or your family or people in your neighborhood to sort of like adopt a lake for the summer. And because the monitoring does include, going to the same site about twice per month, this is a really good way to make sure that you're not overburdened during the summer season because summer is busy and everyone gets a chance to get out and monitor. So setting up a team is always a good method.
That's excellent. I don't think I could have thought of that solution on my own. That makes a lot of sense. Share the job with other folks.
Exactly.
One question from our attendees. You mentioned to get the temperature of the water at depth. Is there a certain depth that's ideal, or can we just stick our hand in?
Yeah, I would say the best method is to measure in water that is at least a meter. And I know that can be sort of hard for some people to reach that. But because water temperature changes so much at depth, it's good to have at least about a meter of depth, because if you take a measurement, say right on the shoreline, then that can sort of skew the reading because it's always going to show that it's warmer. So we do ask that there is some depth. And another reason for having that depth is the watercolor aspect. So watercolor tells us a lot. It also, you get a better watercolor photo when you can't see the bottom of the lake. And I think that's more common for us in BC with really clear waters. But that's always a good practice for gathering, scientifically valuable data.
Sure. That makes sense. And then I suppose we had another question asking us actually, do the samples need to be taken at the same time of day?
Great question. So the same time of day is ideal. That way we can compare it over time, and we have less variables that could potentially, skew the interpretation of our readings. So going at similar times per day, it doesn't have to be, right on the dot. Is a great practice to get into. If mornings work better for you or evenings, just choosing that and sticking with it. We do ask that monitoring take place, on the second and the fourth week of the months, first weekend, sorry. So it can happen over, a few days. It doesn't have to be on the exact same day, but having your sampling days sort of, fall within at least a 3-day range is ideal for data collection and analysis.
Thanks, that makes sense. Another question here from an attendee. Is there a connection with the Water Rangers monitoring program?
Yeah, so one of our amazing partners is the Water Rangers. They provide the Lake Blitz kits, which I showed here. I'll show you the bag. So they have these tiny little sampling kits that they manufacture for us. And then they supported us with the beginnings of the program. We were going to partner on it, but Living Lakes sort of decided to take this on as our own project, and Water Rangers is doing such great work with their comprehensive kits. So there is a tie-in through the kits being manufactured by Water Rangers, and we work really closely with them to support the work that they're doing as well.
Those kits are really neat. I'll find a lake somewhere near me because I want a kit.
They're sucker for
a sucker for portable tools. I'm just thinking, while people are monitoring water, you did mention that on the form, they can input whether they see certain types of species, invasive species. But I also know that there's programs across the country that also need community scientists. So I'm sure there's ways to kind of buddy up if you're at the lake. But what do you do with the data if they're submitting species that they've seen?
Yeah, exactly. So all of our data, once it's collected on the app or through the desktop application, that all goes onto a web map, where we can start to see the data, and we'll have summaries of, the temperature changes that we've seen, and that's open to anybody. So in terms of sharing that data, you can go onto our website and take a look at all of those data points, and it will be built on for the years of the Lake Blitz, which we're looking at a 5-year program.
5 years, excellent. That's awesome. This is my own anecdote, but Birds Canada has a loon survey program every year, and I want to take this time to do a quick PSA. If you're on a lake and you see loons, you can report them. And this is super important because loon nesting periods are on the Victoria Day long weekend and then the Canada Day long weekend. But people go onto the lake with their motorboats the long weekend and they wash away the nests. So if you see a loon nest while you're participating in the Lake Blitz, please do something good for the loons as well.
Yeah, that's a wonderful point. If I can add to that also, a big part of the Lake Blitz is to help improve the communications for great programs like that, right? So as we start to build out this volunteer network of people who are just getting interested in citizen science, like we'll be able to connect them to other opportunities, such as the one you mentioned, or aquatic invasives monitoring that's happening in Saskatchewan. So there's so many great citizen science initiatives out there. I think it's just finding out about them and getting connected. So we're hoping to do that as well.
Totally. And of course, if you see invasive species, you can report through ISCBC always, and you can join our community science network as well. We've got another question here for you, Camille. Because of ease of access, lakes near urban centers are likely to be selected by multiple observers. Just wondering how this will be managed. I think you touched on that quite quickly earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question, and it comes up a lot. One of the ways we're looking to manage that this year is to have volunteers, when they register, you're going to put like your sort of estimated sampling point. I say estimated because once you get to the site and you find like a better location, you can always change it, but it gives us an idea of who is monitoring where. Lakes like Lake Ontario, like we had quite a few volunteers monitoring there just because of the population. But if we can spread that out, then we can monitor on bigger lakes. But we definitely don't want people to gather data for nothing. We want it to be spread out and usable, and we can even help create maybe those data gathering teams if we do have a lot of people going to one particular site. That's a great question.
What if the kits that are arriving, I wonder at the end of the season when we are finished with our kits, will you take them back or do we continue to reuse them? Is there a proper way to recycle them?
Yeah, so for the kits themselves, we do encourage people to monitor again next year. So you're encouraged to keep the kit. If you'd like to mail it back, it is really simple to mail. It just goes in regular letter mail. So it's just a $1 stamp and you can send it back to us, and then it can be reused by other volunteers in the future. But we definitely encourage people to take part in the 5 years because that's the data set that we're looking to gather that can be the most useful for tracking changes.
Totally. And then back to what we were just talking about, Bruce here has a question. If there are several people interested in monitoring the small lake, is there a way to facilitate networking between them? Like you said, maybe create a team with your family and friends, but perhaps you can create a team with others, right?
100%. I think that's great. And we can facilitate with the networking because we have everyone's contact information. And then as long as they have interest in working with others, then we could help you set up a schedule, through a Google Sheet or something like that, and just help facilitate that. In the end, we're hoping that this empowers our volunteers to take leadership initiatives for their own citizen science campaign, but you'll always have support by the Lake Blitz team, mainly me, helping you guys coordinate. So that I think there's some great opportunities there to build networks. Because if you're like me, I think I probably have like only a couple of friends that maybe would go out and monitor a lake with me. So I would love to be connected to others. And it also, I think, attends to that isolation that we're still sort of feeling, as COVID is sort of winding down, and we can help to build more community around lakes.
Oh, totally. And it's an activity that would be open to people with all sorts of comfortable levels around COVID, right? It's outside. You can keep
Mhm.
your distance. So that's a great activity to meet people this summer. Um, we have a question here. I'm not sure if you'll be able to speak to it, Camille, but perhaps you can point us to resources. It's not related to the Lake Blitz, but they're wondering about what Living Lakes Canada is currently doing policy-wise. And so where can they find that kind of information?
Yeah, of course. So our website is really amazing how much it captures and how organized it is. So if you go onto our website, you can look into our projects, and we have a special area for policy and data collection too, but we do have it separated into policy. What that looks like on the ground with some very broad examples are our national roundtable on community-based water monitoring that was conducted with the Gordon Foundation, working to look at how community-based monitoring can help address the data deficiency and empower communities to gather that data too. So it's a way for us to develop the rationale for community-based monitoring as a way to address this big issue of not having enough data on our water bodies. So that's one example, but I encourage you to check out the website. There's a lot of really great stuff, and it's laid out really nicely with keywords and other helpful links and things like that. So it's definitely a good read.
Sounds like a great resource.
Mhm.
Another Ontario example, and knock on wood, hopefully not a BC example anytime soon, but zebra mussels have uh, taken over the lakes in Ontario. And I'm wondering from a communications perspective of the people that will be doing the Lake Blitz, whether you'll provide, some language and stuff for that. And I think of zebra mussels because in Ontario, I've met people who don't understand what an invasive species is necessarily. It's not part of their world.
Mhm.
And they're excited about those zebra mussels because the lakes, and I've swam in them too. The lakes are incredibly clean now and incredibly clear, and just they look tropical because the zebra mussels have filtered everything out. Will you be providing people with this type of they're able to do outreach and really speak well about what they're doing?
Yeah, that's a great question and an opportunity. Definitely with increased monitoring and getting out in the field, it provides real world examples for you to see how monitoring takes place on a lake. So with invasives monitoring, we do have the IDs within the field guide. And we're hoping that can help people with more confidence in identifying what species are there. And then we'll also have reporting tips, where to go, such as, like you said, go to ISCBC to report any instances of invasives. But for the outreach and the skill building component of your question, there will be those monthly meetups. And in those, like I said, it will be, a time to share results, talk about some challenges you might be having, but it will also be a time to listen to presentations from water experts from across Canada. So really hoping that part of that can be an invasives focus. And we can see a presentation from either ISCBC or some of our other national invasive species organizations, and bring them together to really hone in on one particular topic of water stewardship. We'll also, through our emailing, which we send out at the beginning of the month with a reminder to go monitor, there will be some links to some, interesting articles that came out or videos that can just further your learning while you're going out and monitoring. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, that's totally. I'm excited. I'm going to sign up. I'll make it. I'll figure it out. I'm sure I live near a lake. So that was all the questions for today. Camille, if you have any, do you have any final thoughts or?
Yeah, I think, there is actually one more question that I've gotten in the past. And then I'll come up with some final thoughts for everybody. Is what if your kit arrives, malfunctioning or broken? So if that happens, contact us immediately and we'll send you a new kit. So that's my last little question. I just want to make sure, because sometimes that can happen with shipping. There can be some issues there. So I just want to make sure that everyone knows that If anything, if you're struggling with anything, if you choose to sign up for the Lake Blitz, if you're struggling with anything, you can always email me and I will help you figure it out or get you new equipment or help you with data entry questions and things like that, if we haven't covered it in the training too. So I'm always available, and I'm really just hoping that this will provide everyone with a method to connect with other people who really care about water and want to do a bit more to protect their local lakes. Also, I'm there every step of the way. If you need help identifying a lake, you want to take part, you're stumbling on anything, you can always contact me at lakeblitz@livinglakescanada.ca, and I'll be there to help you at every step of the way, like I said. But
That's awesome. Yeah. And what a great way to celebrate World Water Day today with all this great information. So thank you, Camille. We're really happy that you joined us today, and thank you to everyone who joined us as an attendee. We really appreciate your support. And again, this webinar was made possible thanks to support from Fisheries and Oceans Canada. We are able to share information with anyone about the Lake Blitz. Camille has laid it out very clearly for you, but should you need it, you can reach out to anyone at ISCBC. And I encourage you to join our community science network, as we will share information about this program and other great programs like it. And I hope to see you next week for our next water webinar with Leonard Joe, who will be providing an Indigenous perspective on aquatic invasive species. So thank you all, and see you next time.